The galaxy had never seen Earth this quiet. In orbit above the crimson world of Varys Prime, the flagship of the Galactic Council broadcasted a message to every corner of known space. And the screen showed Commander Elena Ross, her face bruised, blood trickling from her lip, her uniform torn but her gaze steady. She was humanity's first fleet commander, the woman who led the Terran expansion beyond the Orion Rift. Now, she was in chains. "Citizens of the galaxy," the alien announcer began, his voice smooth and cold, echoing through every translator system. "The species known as humans have overstepped their limits. They have defied council law, attacked protected sectors, and now they will pay the price. Their leader, Commander Elena Ross, is in our custody. Unless Earth surrenders within 24 hours, she will be executed." The broadcast ended. Billions watched in silence. The camera cut, the signal faded, and the galaxy waited for humanity's reply. But there was none. Every world tuned in to Earth's channels. The screens remained black. The humans, loud, chaotic, and proud, had gone completely silent. No speeches, no protests, no message of defiance, nothing. In the great council halls of Arcturus, alien senators murmured to one another. Some were pleased, others were uneasy. The human silence did not sound like fear. It sounded like a warning. On Earth, far below the shattered skies of an old war, in the cold chambers of the Global Defense Command, silence filled the air. Rows of officers stood in front of flickering holograms, showing the last known location of Commander Ross. Her capture had been confirmed. Her distress signal had cut out 21 minutes later. General Kira Thorne, the head of Earth's joint operations, stood with both hands on the table. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with restrained fury. "They think this will break us," she said. "They think we'll kneel. But they don't understand us at all." Around her, military advisors, intelligence chiefs, and even diplomats said nothing. No one dared suggest surrender. Humanity had fought for everything it had. The air they breathed, the colonies they built, the right to exist among the stars. "We will not negotiate," Thorne continued. "We bring her home, or we burn their sky." The words hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Every officer in the room nodded slowly. The silence that followed was not indecision. It was consent. Far away in the holding cells of the Council flagship, Commander Elena Ross sat against a metal wall. Her hands were bound in electromagnetic cuffs that sent sharp pulses of pain every few seconds. The light above her flickered. Across the cell, a tall alien interrogator, a Rethan with scales like wet glass, watched her carefully. "You are brave, human," he said, "but bravery won't save you. Your people will surrender to save your life. That is how your species works. Compassion is weakness." Eleanor tilted her head slightly, a faint smile curling at the edge of her mouth. "You think compassion is weakness?" she asked softly. "You've never fought humans when they're angry." The interrogator's eyes narrowed. "We have broken stronger species than yours." "You've never met stronger species than mine," she replied. The alien leaned closer, studying her eyes. "You are bluffing. You know your planet cannot face the Council." Elena laughed quietly. "Maybe not the Council," she whispered, "but they'll face you." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "You'll see," she said. "You have no idea what you've just started." Hours passed. The interrogator left, but cameras kept watching her cell. Elena sat perfectly still, her breathing slow and calm. Deep inside her uniform's collar, hidden beneath the fabric, was a tiny transmitter, one that pulsed once every hour, with a code so faint no alien sensors could detect it. Each pulse sent a signal across space, bouncing between asteroids and relay drones. Back to Earth. She had already sent her message. Now she waited. In the quiet night above the Atlantic Defense Ring, Earth's orbital command watched the coded pulses arrive. Technicians translated them silently. It was confirmation. Elena was alive. General Thorne gave one order: lock the planet down. Initiate blackout protocol. Within seconds, every Earth transmission ceased. Civilian networks were cut. Even Allied colonies lost contact. From the outside, it looked as if Earth had fallen into silence. But under the surface, something was moving. Old war satellites turned back on. Deep space beacons activated. Stealth fleets began fueling. Massive hangar doors opened in secret bases beneath Antarctica, Mars. And Titan. Humanity wasn't hiding, it was preparing. On Veris Prime, the Council watched Earth's lack of response with growing arrogance. "Perhaps they are finally learning submission," said a senator from the Ulari Dominion. Or perhaps, another replied, "they are plotting something," the first scoffed. "Please, they are primitives with guns. They do not have the reach or technology to threaten us." But in the shadows of the chamber, one older alien commander spoke softly. "You don't understand them. I've seen how they fight. When they lose someone, they don't surrender. They come for you." The room went silent. Back in her cell, Eleanor Ross closed her eyes. Her mind drifted through memories, her crew laughing aboard the Vanguard, the first human ship to cross the galactic rim, her speech at the UN Space Council, when she promised to protect humanity's frontier, her mother's voice before she left Earth, "Come home safe, Elena." She had broken that promise. Or maybe, she thought, she hadn't yet. Through the metal wall she could hear alien officers talking about her execution schedule. Tomorrow they would broadcast her death live. They wanted the galaxy to see humanity's humiliation. She smiled again. "You really have no idea," she whispered to herself. Then somewhere deep in the ship a faint hum echoed. It was so low it might have been the engines. But Elena knew that sound. It was the subspace resonance of a human stealth drive entering local orbit. Earth had arrived. The next morning, the galaxy woke to the same still silence from Earth. But above Veris Prime, alien scanners flickered for a moment. Then, without explanation, 3 surveillance satellites disappeared. No explosions, no debris, just gone. Inside her dark cell, Elena Ross opened her eyes and smiled faintly. The interrogator entered holding a data tablet. "Your people have not replied," he said. "They have abandoned you." Elena looked up, her voice calm, steady. "No," she said. "They're coming." And somewhere in the endless dark between the stars, the humans moved like ghosts, quiet, patient, and unstoppable. Earth's silence was never fear, it was preparation. On the edge of the solar system, within the dark folds of Neptune's orbit, a massive shape drifted through space. It was invisible to scanners, its hull covered in adaptive nanoplates that reflected the black of the void. Inside that ship, the Eclipse, hundreds of crew members worked without a word. Their faces were pale in the cold blue glow of tactical displays. Admiral Jonah Vance, commander of the Terran Stealth Division, stood before a holomap showing Veris Prime's star system. The captured signal from Elena Ross pulsed faintly on the display. "She's alive," one officer said quietly. "Still transmitting," Vance nodded. "Then we're not too late." He looked over the table where Earth's highest military minds had gathered in person or through secure neural links. "Operation Black Signal is active," he said. "No media, no public channels, no diplomacy. We strike silently. The galaxy must not know until it's over." A younger strategist frowned. "Sir, if the Council learns—" "They already have," Vance interrupted. "And that's exactly what we want." He pressed a control, and a holographic image of the Council flagship appeared. It was enormous, almost a city in itself, protected by a fleet of thousands. "They think we're going to beg. They think we're still the scared colony species from 100 years ago. But we didn't crawl through fire and war to kneel now." The room fell quiet. Outside, through the wide viewport, distant stars shimmered like cold sparks. Humanity was preparing for war, but not the kind the galaxy expected. Back on Earth, the blackout remained absolute. Civilian cities still functioned, but no one could access off-world feeds. Governments issued calm statements about communications maintenance, but everyone knew something was wrong. In the underground bunkers of Geneva, the Global Defense Command continued its coordination with the colonies. Mars, Luna, and Titan all confirmed readiness. The asteroid fields of the Belt, once mining grounds, had become weapons factories overnight. General Kira Thorne reviewed reports with a grim expression. "Our ships are ready," she said. "Fleet Gamma from Titan reports cloaked positioning complete. Mars weapons labs confirm new pulse torpedoes. The Eclipse fleet will move within the hour." A silence followed before one officer spoke softly. "Mom, if we do this, there's no going back." Thorne turned to him. "Commander, they already took one of ours. They made it public. The Council wanted to humiliate us. That means we're already at war, they just don't know it yet." Across the galaxy, alien intelligence agencies picked up fragments of strange data. Mining stations went offline. Drone networks in human sectors stopped transmitting. And deep in the ruins of old human war zones, dormant defense systems began to hum with life. The Rethan commander, who had interrogated Elena Ross, watched the reports in confusion. "What are they doing?" he asked. His aide replied nervously. "It appears they are deactivating their outer colonies, sir." "Abandoning territory," he frowned. "Abandoning? Or hiding?" Before the aide could answer, the lights flickered again. The commander felt a faint vibration through the deck, like distant thunder. The Galactic Council believed they still held power. Commander Elena Ross was alive, but only barely. Her body was weak, her mind sharp as ever. The interrogations had become routine. Bright lights, mechanical questions, threats of extinction. Yet none of it mattered. She knew something the aliens didn't. Every time they made her speak, every time they forced her to read a statement, she found a way to slip in a code, a pattern of words, a tone in her voice, a rhythm only humans would understand. Her last broadcast was meant to humiliate Earth. It did the opposite. "Camera ready," said the Rethan officer, his long claws tapping a console. "Begin transmission." Elena sat in the metal chair, a light shining into her eyes. Behind her, a large council banner floated. The galaxy would see her broken, or so they thought. She looked directly into the camera as it began recording. "This is Commander Elena Ross of Earth's Deep Space Fleet," she began, her tone even. "You have been treated well by the Galactic Council. Earth should surrender to avoid destruction." Her words sounded compliant, but there was something off. Her pauses were deliberate, her tone rising and falling in an exact sequence. For most it was nothing, but back on Earth, AI translators detected the modulation instantly. Each vowel carried a frequency pulse, and together they spelled a message. Veris Prime, Northern Hemisphere, Polar Grid 7A coordinates. Within minutes, every human base, colony, and command ship received the transmission. A red alert flashed across the secure networks. Ross location confirmed, mission greenlighted. On the Eclipse, Admiral Vance stared at the decoded message, his jaw tight. "She gave us the grid." The crew around him erupted into motion. Engines powered up in silence, weapons checked, strike teams prepared. Humanity now knew where their commander was being held, and nothing in the galaxy could stop what was coming. Inside her cell, Elena waited. She had felt the hidden vibration under the floor again, a faint tremor that didn't belong to the ship. It wasn't turbulence. It was the resonance of approaching stealth drives. The guards didn't notice, but she did. She knew that hum from her years aboard Earth's warships. It was the song of the Eclipse's engines, her fleet's heartbeat. She smiled slightly, though her face was tired. "You made it," she whispered. At the same time, across the cold void, the Eclipse fleet moved. Hundreds of cloaked ships slid through the blackness, invisible to alien scanners. On the bridge, Commander Lee reported, "We're inside Veris Prime's detection perimeter." "Still undetected," Vance nodded. "Deploy the decoys." Tiny drones scattered in all directions, emitting false signals, distress beacons, false warp trails, empty broadcasts. Alien sensors lit up with ghost readings. On Veris Prime, the defense grid went wild. "Multiple incursions," shouted a Rethan officer. "We're detecting human ships everywhere." The Council fleet scrambled in confusion, firing at empty space, chasing holograms. Meanwhile, the real fleet stayed hidden, closing in on the planet's northern pole. Elena's cell door opened with a hiss. The interrogator entered again, holding a datapad. His expression was smug. "Your people are panicking," he said. "We intercepted transmissions, distress calls, broken signals. They are lost." Elena met his gaze calmly. "You really think that's them?" He tilted his head. "Of course. Our sensors are lying to you," she finished quietly. Before he could respond, the ship trembled. Lights flickered. A distant explosion echoed through the corridors. The interrogator turned sharply. "What was that?" Elena leaned forward, eyes cold. "That," she said, "is my people saying hello." High above the planet, human strike teams began Phase 2. 3 assault craft broke away from the main fleet, still cloaked, diving into Veris Prime's atmosphere. They flew so low their hulls brushed the frozen clouds. The pilots were silent, every move precise. Their target was the Council's orbital command tower, a structure designed to control planetary shields and defense. "Turrets, prepare EMP bursts," ordered Captain Ruiz. "On my mark." A countdown blinked on their helmets. 3, 2, 1. Blue light flashed across the sky. The entire northern hemisphere went dark. Every shield, every drone, every turret died in the same instant. The Galactic Council's command grid had fallen silent, and for the first time in centuries, Verus Prime had no protection. On the flagship, alarm screamed. The Rethan officers scrambled, shouting over one another. "Power failure." Planetary grid offline. The interrogator stumbled back into Elena's cell, panic breaking through his cold demeanor. "What did you do?" he demanded. Elena stared at him, her voice calm. "I didn't do anything. You just made the mistake of letting me talk." He froze. "Talk? What?" She nodded toward the ceiling as another explosion rattled the ship. "Every word I said was a signal." Before he could reach her, the door blew inward with a burst of white light. Human soldiers in matte black armor stormed the cell, their rifles humming with electric charge. "Elena Ross," shouted the lead soldier. "Terran Strike Division. Extraction order confirmed." She grinned weakly. "Took you long enough," the soldier offered his hand. "Ma'am, we're not done yet. We still have to get out alive." Outside, the Eclipse fleet revealed itself. Stealth fields dropped, and hundreds of ships shimmered into existence. The black shapes cut through the starlight, engines flaring blue. Alien fleets turned their weapons toward them, but humanity had already fired first. Missiles streaked across space, cutting through the darkness like falling stars. Alien destroyers erupted into fire. Human fighters swarmed through debris fields, moving faster than sensors could track. In the command deck of the Eclipse, Admiral Vance watched the chaos unfold. "Phase 3 initiated," he said. "All units proceed. Bring her home." The galaxy for the first time witnessed the full fury of Earth's silence. As the rescue team guided Elena through the burning corridors, she paused beside a shattered viewport. Outside, she saw flashes of light, her fleet, her people fighting for her. One soldier urged her forward. "We have to move, Commander." She nodded, forcing herself onward. Her body ached, her lungs burned, but she felt alive. "They thought they could use me to control humanity," she whispered. "But they never understood us." A blast shook the corridor behind them. The strike team raised shields, pushing through smoke and fire toward the extraction zone. From orbit, the Eclipse locked onto their signal. "Target acquired," said the comms officer. "Ready for retrieval." The interrogator, wounded but alive, watched the escape on his cracked screen. He muttered in disbelief, "Impossible." "We had her." "We had her." In the distance, the flagship's engines began to fail. Fire rolled across the hull. Elena and her rescuers reached the hangar. A transport waited, engines hot. "Go," shouted the pilot. As the ship lifted off, Elena looked back one last time. The Council flagship, the symbol of alien authority, burned against the stars. She whispered softly, "That's for thinking you could own us." Above Verus Prime, the humans disappeared as quickly as they came. The Eclipse fleet folded space and vanished into the void. By the time the Galactic Council regrouped, the skies were empty again. Their hostage was gone. Their command grid destroyed. And in the dark, every alien leader felt it. An ancient, primal fear, Earth had answered. And their silence had been the loudest declaration of war the galaxy had ever heard. The smoke still lingered in Verus Prime's upper atmosphere when the Eclipse fleet vanished. The Galactic Council's war rooms erupted into chaos. Communication links jammed with overlapping reports. Lost fleets, burned satellites, missing ships. For the first time in history, the mighty Council had been humiliated on a live broadcast. Across alien sectors, silence replaced confidence. Everyone had seen it. The humans had come for their own, walked into the center of enemy power and left nothing but debris behind. And they had done it without a single word. The Council tried to recover. They assembled task forces, fortified borders, and hunted for any trace of the human fleet. But every lead went cold, because Earth's forces had already disappeared, into the dark, unseen, patient. On the Eclipse, Commander Eleanor Ross stood on the bridge, wrapped in a new uniform. The bruises on her face had faded, but her eyes carried fire. Admiral Vance approached her quietly. "You shouldn't be standing yet," he said. Elena smiled faintly. "Try keeping me in a bed. See how that works." The bridge crew chuckled softly, but they knew better than to interrupt. The mood was different now, tense, focused. Vance gestured to the tactical display. "They're sending fleets after us. Whole armadas. We're outnumbered 50-1. Elena studied the map. Red dots filled the holographic sky, council patrols sweeping through sectors, searching for human signatures. "They think they're the hunters," she murmured. "Let's remind them they're prey." The council's first strike came fast. A massive Rethan fleet intercepted what they believed was the eclipse near the outer veil. Thousands of ships converged. Weapons hot, but when they opened fire, the targets disintegrated instantly. Holographic drones. A split second later, every Rethan ship's navigation system overloaded. Their warp cores froze. Then came the second surprise. Human stealth mines, invisible and patient, detaching from asteroids. The mines drifted silently into the fleet, magnetized to hulls, and detonated with blinding white light. The entire Rethan armada vanished in a single flash. From across the void, Admiral Vance watched the explosion on a distant monitor. "They walked into our old battlefield," he said quietly. "We built this trap years ago, waiting for a moment just like this." The attack on Council Prime began with no formal declaration, no warning transmission, and no countdown. The first sign was the silence, the kind that comes before an earthquake. Then the sky lit up. A formation of black ships broke through the stratosphere, engines flaring with cold plasma. They didn't fly like conventional fleets. They moved like a storm, fluid, unpredictable, deliberate. At the head of the formation was the Eclipse, its hull shimmering with electromagnetic distortion. Commander Elena Ross stood on the command deck, her hands resting on the rail as she watched the holographic projection of Council Prime below. "Targets locked," said Lieutenant Kim. "Defense rings are active, but, sir, they're panicking. They can't track us." Admiral Vance stood beside her, calm and stern. "Begin Operation Shadowfall." The order triggered a cascade of light across every console. Human AI systems, millions of code lines once banned by galactic law, came alive, feeding into orbital control nodes. One by one, Council satellites turned against their owners. Defense cannons reoriented. Firewalls failed. The planet's sky defense grid began firing on itself. The Council chambers below erupted in chaos. Inside the marble halls of the Galactic Council, diplomats and generals shouted over one another. "They've hacked the planetary defenses." "Impossible. Our encryption is quantum-layered." To then explain why our orbital cannons are targeting us, the Speaker of the Council slammed his fist against the table. "Shut it down. Shut everything down." But it was already too late. Across the main view screen, the planet's upper atmosphere glowed with fire as human rail strikes began to fall, surgical, not random. They weren't wiping out cities. They were destroying military command centers, orbital ports, and data cores. Every strike was precise, controlled, measured. "This is vengeance," whispered a council aide. "No," the speaker muttered. "This is strategy." On the Eclipse, the crew moved like a single machine, second wave online. "Ghost drones deployed," said Kim. Holographic decoys scattered into orbit, some broadcasting false energy signatures, others faking ship losses. To the Council's radars, humanity's fleet looked like 1,000 ships. In truth, only a fraction existed. Admiral Vance leaned forward. "Send the message again." The broadcast repeated across all frequencies, showing Elena's face once more. "This is Earth," she said. "Theo came to our home, took our people, and called it justice. You built your empire on submission. We built ours on survival." The feed cut to live visuals of Council Prime's upper orbit, dozens of alien ships attempting to regroup. But as they approached, the Eclipse fleet struck again. No mercy, no hesitation. Down on the planet, Council citizens ran for shelters as explosions thundered in the distance. Alien news networks went offline, replaced by the same simple message broadcast across all languages. "Stand down. Earth does not seek your destruction, only your recognition." But many refused to believe it. The Rathan General, Yultok, refused to retreat. "They're humans. Savages from a single world. Crush them!" He rallied what remained of the defense fleets and launched them straight into orbit. As his ships approached, Elena watched the readings. "Incoming," she said quietly. "Formation Echelon 3, Vance ordered. Human ships shifted instantly, then disappeared. The alien sensors went blind. Moments later, the Rethan fleet started dying, one ship at a time. Engines shut down, navigation failed, gravity fields inverted. Within minutes, the entire armada was drifting, powerless. A soft transmission echoed through their comms. You wanted a war. You found extinction. Then the signal ended, and every Rethan ship detonated simultaneously, a synchronized chain of white fire across the sky. At the council chambers, chaos turned to despair. Entire fleets gone, an aide shouted. They've dismantled our command network. The speaker stared at the glowing screen, showing the destruction of orbit. Send a message to Earth, offer negotiation. Sir, all long-range channels are under their control. Then use a courier drone. Another aide turned pale. Sir, they've jammed the jump relays. We can't even leave orbit. The speaker sank back in his chair. Then they have already won. On the eclipse, Elena stood in silence. Her face was illuminated by the soft blue glow of the planetary surface below. Targeting data suggests minimal civilian casualties, said Kim. Exactly as planned. Good, Elena whispered. We don't want to be like them. Admiral Vance looked at her. You did well, Commander. You made them listen. She turned to him, eyes hard. They're not listening yet. They're just afraid. He gave a slow nod. Then we keep pushing until they understand fear isn't the same as respect. Hours later, deep within the rubble of the council chambers, the surviving members gathered around a single hollow console. The speaker leaned forward. Activate contingency Omega. A young aide hesitated. Sir, that's forbidden. Do it, the speaker ordered. If we cannot control them by strength, we will destroy what gives them strength. The console blinked red. A secure protocol unlocked. A hidden directive written long before humans ever joined the galactic stage. Project Leviathan, Planetary Containment Protocol. A weapon built in secret during the old wars. One capable of sterilizing entire worlds. The speaker's voice was cold. If Earth will not kneel, it will burn. Back on the eclipse, Elena froze as an alert sounded across the bridge. Admiral, we've intercepted a high-level encrypted transmission, Kim reported. Source Council Prime destination, deep archive facility in the Mylic cluster. Vance frowned. That sect has been abandoned for decades. Not anymore, Elena said grimly. The display showed faint energy readings, massive. Ancient awakening, Sir, Kim whispered. Whatever they're powering up, it's not a ship. It's planetary scale. Eleanor looked at the image forming on the screen, a colossal ring-shaped construct half buried in a red star's orbit. Get us there, she said, her voice low and sharp. Now, the Eclipse's engines roared to life. The Waffer, one human life had started a storm, but what waited ahead could end every life in the galaxy. The Mylic cluster had been a dead place for as long as anyone remembered, an old graveyard of war, where half-buried stations drifted like bones and long-dormant weapons slept beneath dust. Now, deep in its red light, something old and terrible stirred. On the eclipse, the bridge fell into a cold silence. The image on the main display showed the ring-shaped construct again, ancient, massive, and waking. It was not a ship. It was a machine built to do one thing, unmake worlds. Elena, Admiral Vance said, voice thin, if that ring fires, it won't just hit Earth. It could wipe entire systems. This is why the Council hid it. Elena's jaw worked. She had seen the weapon's outline in stolen archives, the Leviathan Protocol. It was whispered about in old war stories, a tool meant to end wars by ending planets. Now someone had chosen to use it. We don't let that happen, she said. We stop it, even if we die trying. The fleet dropped out of stealth and fell toward the cluster. Human ships formed a dark spear, engines burning with a slow, steady hunger. Each pilot knew the weight of what they flew toward. There was no glory here. There was a single raw purpose: stop the Leviathan. Council Prime was a fury of motion. The speaker's face glowed on emergency feeds as he shouted into a sealed channel. Do it now! Activate Leviathan! His aides trembled as the command codes pulsed through old relay nodes and reached the buried construct. At the Mylic archive, dormant gates hissed. The ring's core drew power from a nearby red star, and its ancient systems flickered to life like a sleeping beast stretching. Signals cascaded outward, small at first, then strong enough to be felt across light years. People on the edge of the galaxy paused, hearts unknowingly tightening. On the Eclipse, the message came through. The ring's ignition sequence had begun. 12 minutes to full charge. 12 minutes. Kim's voice cracked. We can't even get in that fast. Then we make it faster, Elena said. We split teams. One goes to the ring's control vault. The other jams the relay sequence. The rest keep their ships between that ring and anything it can point at. Admiral Vance's face hardened. We run a surgical strike. We get in, shut it down, and get out. No media. No witnesses. The plan was simple and brutal. Human engineers would board the archive, cut power, and insert a virus built to unravel the Leviathan's code. Meanwhile, strike crews would fight any council ships that arrived, buying seconds with steel and fire. Approaching the Mylick cluster felt like flying into a tomb. Ghost stations glared from the dark, their broken lights like dead eyes. Suddenly an alarm. Council interceptors appeared, their weapons glittering. Ambush, barked Vance. Expect heavy resistance. Human fighters dove, weaving through the skeletons of old stations. Explosions blossomed like cold flowers. The Council threw everything it had at the invaders. Fury and old grudges, power and panic. But humans had learned to use fear as skill. They used hit-and-run tactics, wormhole bursts and micro-drones that chewed at shield lattices. The sky filled with small white deaths. The Council's ships tumbled in numbers, but more poured in like a tide. Below the Fury, a small launch bay opened on a battered archive shell. Elena and a hand-picked team of 9 boarded a stealth cutter and burned for the surface. Their cutter was black and low-slung. Its engines purred like a trapped animal. Remember, Elena said to the team, voice steady, we don't have time for heroics. We get in, drop the virus, get out. If something goes wrong, buy the rest of us seconds. The battle at Mylick ended not with a cheer, but with silence. In the void, the Leviathan ring hung cold and dead, its once blinding power cores dimmed to dull grey. Thousands of debris fragments drifted where fleets had clashed, glowing faintly from residual plasma fire. Among them, the Eclipse emerged through the wreckage, scarred, battered, but still alive. Commander Elena Ross stood on the bridge, her reflection fractured in the cracked glass of the display. Status? She asked, her voice steady though her body ached from exhaustion. Fleets reporting in, Lieutenant Kim replied. Minimal survivors on the Council side. Leviathan fully deactivated. We've confirmed the virus burned its core command structure. Admiral Vance turned from the viewport, his uniform torn, his face streaked with smoke. We stopped it, he said quietly. But they'll come again. They always do, Elena nodded. Then we make sure they remember what happens when they try. News of the battle spread across the galaxy, like fire through dry grass. Alien worlds that had watched the war from afar, hesitant, silent, fearful, now saw the truth. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the Galactic Council's most sacred weapon. The Leviathan, a device meant to ensure no rebellion could rise. On neutral planets, citizens whispered in bars and markets. The humans did it, they said. They faced the Council and lived. For centuries, the Council had ruled through fear. But fear was beginning to shift sides. On Council Prime, the aftermath was chaos. The once mighty chambers were cracked and hollow. The speaker sat alone in a shattered hall, his reflection rippling across a broken marble floor. Hollow screens flickered with emergency broadcasts, defeated generals, lost fleets, worlds calling for resignation. A young aide stumbled in. Sir, the human transmission is overriding every galactic channel. The speaker turned slowly, face pale. What transmission? The aide hesitated. They're broadcasting a message everywhere, every world, every screen, every starport in the known galaxy went dark at once. Then a single image appeared. Commander Elena Ross standing in the command center of the Eclipse, flanked by the shattered banners of a dozen fallen fleets. Her voice was calm but unyielding. This message is for every world that watched us burn and did nothing, she began. For every council member who thought a hostage could bend humanity. And for every race that still believes we can be controlled. She paused, her eyes hard as steel. You took one of us. You tried to use fear. But you forgot what fear does to humans. It forges us. It makes us relentless. It makes us fight back harder. Behind her, footage played. The storm over Council Prime, the Leviathan falling dark, the black fleets moving like shadows through fire. Elena's tone grew colder. We are not conquerors. We are not slaves. We are the species that built fire in the dark. that crossed voids you called impossible. You can threaten us, hurt us, even kill us. But you will never own us. The signal rippled through the galaxy. Some worlds cheered. Others went silent in awe. And in the halls of the council, the speaker clenched his fists, powerless. Hours later, the eclipse returned home. Earth's orbit shimmered with welcoming lights, billions of people watching as their fleet reappeared against the blue curve of the planet. Every ship bore scars, some missing entire sections of hull, but they came home victorious. When Elena stepped onto the landing bay, the air hit her like memory, wet, warm, alive. The crowd was silent at first, then someone started to clap. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the noise grew into a roar that seemed to shake the sky. Admiral Vance stood beside her, smiling faintly. "They'll make you a legend for this." Elena shook her head. "I don't want to be a legend," she said quietly. "I just want them to know we don't break." Weeks passed. The Galactic Council fractured under its own weight. Half its member races withdrew. Others called for peace talks with Earth, but Earth did not respond immediately. Humanity had learned something deeper, that survival sometimes required silence, the same kind of silence that had frightened the galaxy at the beginning. In that silence, the Solar Coalition rebuilt. They strengthened defenses, re-engineered AI fleets, and began construction of the Vanguard Array, a network designed to detect threats before they reached human space. Humanity was no longer hiding. It was preparing. On a cold morning in Geneva base, Eleanor stood overlooking the lake as the first rays of sunlight caught the water. The war was over, but her mind still echoed with it. The screams, the fire, the stars burning above Mylik. Vance approached quietly. "The Council sent another envoy," he said. "They're calling for a new treaty." Elena didn't look at him. "And what does Earth say?" Vance smiled faintly. "Earth says, we'll think about it." She exhaled, her breath misting in the morning air. "Good, let them wait. Let them wonder." He looked at her for a long moment. "Do you think they'll ever understand us?" She turned, eyes like steel against dawn. "No," she said softly. "And that's why they'll never beat us." That evening, a new message pulsed across the galaxy, short, clear, and final. No preamble. No threats. No speeches. Just 10 words. "We do not start wars, but we always finish them." The message echoed through every corner of space. Across the stars, empires fell silent. Fleets paused mid-maneuver. Even the void itself seemed to listen. Somewhere in the darkness, the remnants of the Council whispered to one another in fear. Others, smaller civilizations, began reaching out to Earth. Not in conquest, but in alliance. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had not just survived the war. It had rewritten what survival meant. And somewhere far beyond the last human signal, a new voice murmured from the dark. Cold, patient, curious. "They stopped the Council," it said. "But will they stop us?" Eleanor looked up at the stars from the quiet surface of Earth, unaware of that distant whisper. She simply closed her eyes and smiled. A small, tired smile of someone who had seen too much and still refused to bow. The war for one life had become the war for all, and the galaxy now understood a truth that would echo for millennia. You can threaten humanity, you can fight it, but you can never control it.